Hello everyone and welcome to our second show of yEUth's Voice. My name is Erna and together with Blanca I will be conducting today's interview. For our second show we wanted to talk to an MEP who has been recently involved in discussions about EU education, youth unemployment with the development of and the implementation of the Erasmus Plus program, but as well the European Solidarity Corps. That is why we approached Mr. Brando Benifei. Welcome Mr. Benifei and thank you very much for being with us today. For those who are not familiar with our guest, Mr. Benifei is an Italian MEP. He is representing the S&D group, and he's actually one of the youngest MEPs in the European Parliament. He's a member of the Spinelli group, and he has been also the vice president of the Young European Socialists for 4 years. Last but not least, Mr. Benifei is a very active member in the Committee on Employment and Social Affairs.
We will start the discussion talking about EU education and youth unemployment. The Youth Guarantee, launched in 2014, is a program by which member states ensure that young people under 25 receive an offer of employment, education or training within 4 months of leaving school or becoming unemployed. How do you personally evaluate the Youth Guarantee?
Well, I think that the EU Guarantee programs that we have been implementing in the member states through the Youth Employment Initiative, this budget line that was for this period inside the EU budget, has been a mixed result experiment, in the sense that on one end, it has been for sure successful in promoting, pushing reform of the public employment services, in putting our structures at national level more able to reach more young people through a European program that has tried to really streamline all the efforts to reach all those young people that were inactive, that needed support to have an occasion of employment, to complete their training. So it has put into challenge our systems. It obliged many member states to renew the structures for public employment services, to have more people working there. Then if we look at actually how many young people were reached and obtained a real support, it depends on the regions, it depends on the economic situation. It's a more mixed result. We can say that where economic growth has been limited and where there was a big lack of public infrastructure, the results were not very good, and we still have overall a need to reach more NEETs, more young people that are completely inactive. I've been myself, to conclude, one of the rapporteurs, the rapporteur for the S&D of the implementation report, and we have stressed all these things I've been saying, and also the need to have higher quality of the offers. We want to prevent EU money to be used for non-high quality offers of work, of training, and I've put myself in the report. I'm happy, and I hope the Commission will pick up this suggestion to have a direct hotline for young people to talk with the Commission, to put examples of good and also bad practice they have been experiencing in the program.
Talking about the needs, who are young people not in education, employment or training, the Youth Guarantee only tackles people up to 25 years old, whereas the needs go up to 30-year-old. Why do you think it's so difficult to tackle the needs?
Well, on one end, the difficulty to reach all the NEETs, it's because they are often those who are less ready to trust the institutions, to trust that they can find some support from us. It's those people, when I was when I had more time to be a grassroots activist, it's the people that often drop the leaflets without even reading. They really refuse because they think that we are not doing something for them. Sometimes they are even right, but in this case, really, they should be reached more. And one important change that we proposed is to have more youth organizations included, also at local level, to be able to design communication and outreach campaigns in a better way. I've been working with the European Youth Forum especially on this, and it's true, as you said, that there is also, on another aspect, the age issue. On many countries, we already were able, through exceptions and changes in the program, to reach the under 30. even if, as you said, the original plan is for under 25. I agree that we should consider also at least to open part of it to under 35, as you mentioned, because that's the overall age span for the more significant numbers of NEETs.
Mm-hmm. And in this sense, some member states like Italy, Greece or Spain still show very high levels of youth unemployment. How do you think these differences across member states can be explained? Do you think the solution should come from the EU level?
Well, as Mr. Juncker, President of the Commission, has said in one speech in the plenary, the European Union has only 1% of the social spending of the EU at its level. The rest is at the member states level individually. So we cannot solve everything. What we can do is to create levers, incentives, springboards for our economy to go in the right way. It's clear that also when we talk about the youth guarantee that we just discussed, it's a measure that cannot cope with unemployment by itself. You need economic growth, you need a development also of more equal conditions of access to the labor market, better distribution of income, and then these incentives can be working. We have seen it. Where we have more equal societies and more economic growth and more investment by the public sector, the youth guarantee has been an extremely successful support measure. So we need to work on the economic governance and economic policy as a whole. It cannot be just with the incentives that we create jobs and we put more convergence in our economies.
And finally, in April 2016, together with other MEP colleagues, you signed a written declaration on unpaid and low-quality internships, calling upon the Commission to make unpaid internships for graduates illegal. Yet surveys show that 1 in 3 interns in MEP offices was paid less than 600 euros, while 1 out of 10 was not paid at all. Despite the efforts so far, few EU institutions and a lot of companies across member states are guilty of offering unpaid traineeships for graduates. Did your declaration have an impact on this situation, and what do you think can be done to stop this?
Well, the declaration was a political statement, so it was important to create some understanding, some consciousness of the problem. Then we did this survey as co-chair of the Youth Intergroup. I'm very proud that we have been working very strongly and with a clear direction above the differences, together with all the other board members of the Youth Intergroup, to fight unpaid internships, both outside the EU institutions, but also inside. Because, as you said, in the European Parliament, it comes from the survey that we did as Youth Intergroup. There is a lot of interns that are not paid and not with the quality experience, not with the learning program. We have in program now to meet with all the bureau members of the Parliament, so the President and the Vice Presidents of the Parliament, to ask them to take a clear commitment to end this practice by the end of this legislature. We are pushing from all sides, through the NGOs too, because it's a shame, it's impossible to talk about decent work in the European institutions when you allow still people to work unpaid. This is not acceptable. It's almost illegal, and it should be completely illegal. And I want to say that something is moving, just to conclude, because through also our efforts, I have to say that, for example, the High Representative Mogherini has moved so that the EEAS, the External Action Service, now doesn't allow for unpaid interns in the delegations. We have been working with that. We have been working with the European Ombudsman. So things can move, and now we want them to move also inside the European Parliament.
Great. Mr. Benifei, the Commission recently published a midterm review on the Erasmus Plus program, and one of the main findings was that the overall budget is considered too small. Do you and in general the European Parliament aim to address this budget question within the next multi-annual financial framework?
Yes, absolutely. I've been adhering with absolute conviction to the campaign for Erasmus per 10 that many organizations have been promoting, the idea of multiplying for tenfold the resources for Erasmus. I don't know if we can reach that number, but I think we really have to compare clearly how little money is now spent still for these mobility projects compared to other parts of the EU budget. We need to increase them because we need more people to be able to participate. We still know, for example, if you look at the classic Erasmus, then now we have new Erasmus possibilities, Erasmus for young entrepreneurs. I've been working myself with many colleagues on this pilot project on the Erasmus Pro for trainees and apprentices. So we are building a whole array of possibilities. But still now, even in the original Erasmus, the academic one, you have situations where the money for the support for participating is too low because the recipient country has too high cost of living. And so we need more money also to allow all people from all backgrounds to participate. Then, as I said, we need to enlarge the scope of the possible Erasmus experiences to new possibilities so that all young people under 35 in Europe, whatever is their career, whatever is their activity, they can have a good quality mobility experience that can create a sense of European citizenship.
Okay. Let's move now from these numbers and figures to another topic, which is European solidarity. In 2016, a European initiative announced the launch of a new program, European Solidarity Corps. That's a program that aims to help young people between 18 and 30 years to volunteer on projects that benefit the community, but also to improve their job perspectives. So some of our trainees already signed for these European Solidarity Corps, but up until now they haven't heard any feedback. Is this program actually fully up to speed?
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised because we are still in the experimental phase and only a few programs have been implemented. In fact, the Commission has started an experimentation with existing legal bases, but now we are in these days, in fact, discussing the final steps in the Parliament to approve our position for the actual regulation of this Solidarity Corps, and then we will have negotiations with the Council, and in a few months, this will be in place. Now we had, I come from Italy. In Italy, we had in the earthquake-stricken regions of the central Italy, especially in Norcia, in Umbria, people from all over Europe coming with the Solidarity Corps to participate. But it's a small number of projects because we have still been only in the experimental phase. However, it's very good that already tens of thousands of young people registered to the portal, and I hope that with the completion of this regulation discussion and the legal base completed, the program can go really full speed, because I think it's very good to have something in place that can support solidarity all over Europe.
Okay, speaking about solidarity further, the European Parliament voted in favour in 2016 on a non-binding resolution on refugees, their social inclusion and integration into the labour market, where you actually have been the rapporteur. Can you tell us what has changed since this vote, especially with regards to integration of young refugees into the labour market?
Well, the European Commission has reacted, in my opinion, quite well to my report. Many initiatives, in general, the third country nationals package coming from Commissioner Avramopoulos has been picking up a lot of things that were in my report. For example, the extension of the blue card, so the high qualified migration instrument for extending it to the refugees that were not included at the beginning. Also, new measures for reforming the Qualifications Directive and the Reception Conditions Directive, and so working on smoothing the asylum system. Then one point is still completely unaddressed. It's the fact that we still have a system where too much is left to short-termism of national and even regional governments that are always pressed by elections. We need more European long-term planning for migration. This means for sure more solidarity among the member states, but also more capability of choosing which projects to support for integration with a more long-term planning. We risk inability from local political levels to choose to support the integration of refugees, because maybe they have to integrate and support other vulnerable groups, disabled people, long-term unemployed, and then they refuse to support the refugees simply because, just to be blunt, they don't vote, and so they can be less interesting to be an investment for. But we still need to be very clear that investing in integration of the asylum seekers and refugees is an investment for our future. It makes these people able to have jobs, to create a development, to pay taxes, to give back some from the communities that have met them and have helped them in a moment of need.
Okay. And finally, we wanted to tackle participation of citizens in the European elections. In this sense, the turnout among young voters in the last European elections in May 2014 was 28%, whereas the vote of older people aged 55 and above was more than double. What can the EU do to tackle this problem?
Well, in my opinion, we need more involvement of the youth movements in the design of youth participation campaigns in the European elections. We are working on this with the Parliament ourselves and with the Commission. And we need also Europe to be bolder, to be more politicized, to be clearer in its discussion. We have too much of national debates on national issues happening during the electoral campaign for European elections. We need more European-wide debate. We have so many topics that we need to really put into framework at the European level. Think of climate change, of fight against terrorism, of migration management, of fight against global tax evasion, competition, completion of the single market, the digital single market. These things cannot be solved, cannot be treated, cannot be considered fully at national level. And we need these big topics, also integration on foreign affairs, on the defense. I've been working a lot on this, also being a member of also Foreign Affairs Committee and the Subcommittee on Defense, not just of the Employment Committee. That has been my main work for this mandate. I think that if we put these topics at the center of the debate, and we can do it through stronger political parties, a stronger confrontation on big topics at European level, we can re-engage citizens for the importance of these European elections, also the young ones, because they are the ones that will live most of their future in Europe, and so they are the ones that should not leave others to decide for them. And let me just say one final thing on this point of the youth participation. I always say to young people, if you don't participate, you don't just avoid deciding for yourself. You just remove your generation from the concerns of the political parties. If you don't vote as a young person, the political forces also at European level will care less about the interest of young generation, because they simply don't vote and are not an important constituency. So voting is not just for yourself, but it's just also to make young people, youth issues important, relevant in the political agenda.
So picking up on those points you were mentioning, surveys still show a lack of knowledge about the EU institutions. Do you really think it's a lack of interest or a lack of knowledge? And if it's a lack of knowledge, how can we improve that?
I think we need to do two things on this matter. One way for sure is to improve the capability of national education systems with all the possible ways we can exploit from the European level to have more democratic and civic education in schools. Mm-hmm. Many people come out of school, they don't even know what exactly the mayor does. Not even talking about the European Union. Yeah. So that's really, really important. We need to do that because we don't have any more. Like maybe some decades ago in Europe, some organizations, unions, big parties, churches, whatever, big organizations that did a lot of this civic education. Now it's much more reduced, it's very different, everyone has its own way of informing itself, political culture is built more in a puzzle, it's totally different world than that of decades ago. And so we need institutions, public institutions, to invest more by themselves in civic education. The other thing we can do is to have more money, more public money invested in supporting organizations, civic associations, parties, debate associations that promote democratic participation. This means not just voting. Voting is the final act, but you need to be a citizen all year around. This means promoting also with more support from the public those organizations that promote debate, that promote engagement on civic issues, also at the local level. We need this. Democracy as to be kept alive and healthy needs a proper debate, and to fight against authoritarian political models that are now challenging the European model, we need to also prioritize some spending and some political effort for this kind of democratic development so that young people especially can be re-engaged.
Mm-hmm. And finally, on the 7th of February, the transnational lists did not pass in plenary. And as a member of the Spinelli group advocating for a federal Europe, what was your position about them and how did you feel when they did not pass?
I campaigned until the very last moment in the plenary room for voting on this. Unfortunately, we lost the vote. We didn't lose the battle for a more politicized and transnational Europe. We need, as I said, in my opinion, more transnational debate, because many problems are really of this nature and cannot be solved by a single member state. The transnational list would have been a good help for this. They didn't make losing anything on the national side, on the seats that are assigned by single member states. It was an addition. So I'm really unhappy of this decision. I think it was a shortcoming, a shortfall from the Parliament. On the other side, I'm happy that the Parliament has reiterated a clear and very direct support for the procedure of choosing lead candidates for President of Commission, the so-called Spitzenkandidaten, in the upcoming European elections. So each political group will have its leader that will be our candidate for President of Commission, and this will help create a more Europeanized and really transnational debate. That is what we need today to re-engage people and to put things in the proper context. We need more Europe to solve the problems of the world of today.
Mr. Benifei, at this point we actually have to take on board some hard questions. Our trainees were interested, when you miss the Italian cuisine, where do you go and have the best pizza and pasta in town?
Well, I really like a pizzeria that is near the Parliament, called Paolo's Idea.
Is noted.
And also Bottega della Pizza in San Gil. And I missed it. I miss it a bit, but I found all the kind of good restaurants also around the Parliament. I can list a few more where we can pasticcio for sure, where we can have good Italian cuisine. Unfortunately, very often, like today, I didn't have time for a real lunch, so I just eaten something like that. But when I have time, which is not always, I really like going to these places.
Great. Marta, one of our trainees, wanted to know what's the most random talent you have?
To be a good psychologist, I think. I think it's very important for politicians to understand quickly who are you talking with, and so trying to empathize and understand what they think, what their character, at least in their basic features. I think it's very important for being a good politician, and I think I have a good quality in this, which is exactly a bit strange thing to say, but yes.
Now I feel observed, okay. And Mark wanted to know, which book are you currently reading?
Currently I'm reading a book called, I don't know how to say it in English. It's about it's a Italian famous politician, Giorgio Amendola. I would say it's called, I mean in Italian it's una scelta di vita. It's called a life choice. It's about how he started his political commitment, and it's very interesting because it's talking also about the World War and the how that generation of founding fathers of the European countries and then the European Union has built this integration also from different political perspectives and different stories that have been working together.
Okay.
And finally, to wrap up the interview, if you could go back in time, what professional advice would you give to your 23-year-old self?
for being a politician or in general?
In general.
In general. Well, I think it's important that you do what you think you are good at. I think it's important that you, both in studies, in work, in parallel activities, I would suggest my old self not to be scared of doing what you think you are good at, even if it's not maybe immediately something you can use for your future work. For example, I've been working a lot on my language skills in English, also by doing my Erasmus in London, etc. And I was not sure if it was really going to be useful for my work. I was even doubtful of that. I was not sure. And then now it's so important for my work. It's such an asset to be able to speak a bit, as you see, of English.
Okay, thank you very much, Brando Benifei, for joining us today. We appreciate very much your insights and sharing these on the topics that concern young professionals. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Well, dear audience, the October 2017 Robert Schuman traineeship cycle is approaching the end, and I would like to take this opportunity and to congratulate all the trainees on their great work within this past 5 months in the European Parliament, and wish all the best to their future personal and career developments. But don't worry, the Youth's Voice will continue with this project also in the next cycle. So please like and share, and make sure that you follow the STC page so you don't miss the next show. Thank you very much for the Voxbox team for the technical support. Thanks to our podcast team behind the scenes. Thanks for watching us. Have a good day. See you and goodbye.
See you.
Bye.
See you.